Hi there. We are doing a very special follow-up show today with former guest Jamie Isaacs, who appeared on our show months ago. If you don't remember Jamie, she's a 16-year-old victim of bullying. She suffered for years being tripped on the bus, stabbed with pencils, and being hit in the face with backpacks. These are just a few of the things that she lived through on a daily basis. Take a look at this clip. It actually started with one of your supposed best friends.
Yeah.
What happened?
It did. It was at the end of second grade, right after my 8th birthday. And the girl was my best friend. And she was always at my house and always hanging out with me. And all of a sudden, she just started, I don't even know how to describe it. She just became very envious and jealous of my life. She was upset that my parents weren't like in and out of jail and they weren't drinking and drugging, that they were just always there for me.
Yeah.
But they've told me stories,
Well, Jamie is back today and has lots to update you all on, including her assistance in passing anti-bullying laws in Suffolk County. Please stay with us today to find out how you too can fight back against bullying and win. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. With school being back in session, for some it's a joy and happiness to reconnect with friends they missed over the summer or being part of after-school activities. But for some, it can be a nightmare. For my guest today, school was a nightmare for her for 6 years because she was tormented and bullied on a daily basis. The bullying is gone from her life now, and her family now work overtime to help stop bullying and from it spreading nationwide. Please welcome back our former guest, Jamie Isaacs, to the show. Thanks, Jamie, for coming back today. Great to see you. Also joining her today is Kevin Thorburn, who we'll hear from in just a little while. He is the co-founder of the Young Leaders Program. We'll get to all about what that fabulous program is a little bit later in the show. But first, Jamie, I'm going to start with you. Just to remind everybody at home what your story was. What was your story of being bullied? Because it happened to you for about 6 years.
It did. I was bullied for 6 years, from the end of second grade to the end of 7th grade, by a group of over 22 kids, boys and girls. It all started at the end of second grade, right after about my 8th birthday, with a girl that was my best friend. And as the years went on, she just recruited more and more girls to bully and harass me and eventually cyberbully me on a daily basis. And when I got to 5th grade, my parents gave me the option to switch to a private school. And I said no, which is weird, but I said no. And I went into the middle school where this girl created the I Hate Jamie Club, where they were going to kill me after school.
Wow.
And 7th grade is when it reached the number of 22 kids. The kids broke into my locker 14 days in a row. When they couldn't break into that locker anymore, they broke into a classroom locker, stealing my projects, and the list goes on. And that's when I knew that the school wasn't safe for me anymore. And I was withdrawn, and I started 8th grade in a private school.
And each year it got progressively worse. Something specific happened as time went on. And by the time you left, I mean, how many kids were against you when you left that school district?
There were about 22.
Wow, boys and girls?
Yep.
Wow. I mean, what did that do to your self-esteem as a young lady growing up?
It brought it down a lot. I always tried to have a positive outlook, trying to weigh out like what good happened in the day, no matter how much bad there was. And I always had my family at home that, you know, they were always trying to keep me positive and keep my self-esteem as high as they could.
Wow. And what were just, I mean, I named a few of the things in my opening of what happened to you on a daily basis, but that's just a few of the things that actually happened. What else would they do to you?
It was like your basic name calling, a lot of, it was like rumor spreading. The main girl would go around to other kids, at first just girls, saying, you know, if you don't punch Jamie in the face, I'm going to punch you. And basically her goal there was just to take my friends away so that I would be alone, and then they can all attack me in a big group just by, you know, yelling things across the classroom or across the lunchroom, or just like during recess, to get everyone to leave me alone so I wouldn't have any fun.
Wow.
And then, of course, once middle school came along, it was the intense cyberbullying, the death threats. That's mainly just death threats.
Wow. And you're both, everybody's so young. I mean, you're only 16 yourself, so I can't imagine these kids being much older or much younger than you. It just boggles my mind, absolutely. And this also affected your school, because at one time you were a straight A student in that particular school, and then it started to slowly decline. So this also affected
It did.
you being able to learn.
It did. I mean, a lot of time, for most of the time, my grades were mediocre. They weren't that great. But 7th grade, I was kind of able to pull through, and I stayed on the honor roll throughout the entire year. And that is another thing that really ticked off these kids, because they weren't doing so well, and I was still excelling no matter how hard they tried to knock me down.
So you think they bullied you just because you have a good home life and you go to school and you do well?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they didn't have that.
Did they ever give you the reason why exactly they were bullying you or picking on you the way they did?
They never did. I kind of just had to assume it. And after a while, it became obvious, like through the things they would say to me and just through their actions.
And what did the school administration, the principals, the teachers do about any of this?
They didn't want to do anything. At first, they just said, oh, it's kids being kids. But then as the number grew, they said, oh, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied.
Wow.
They really just flat out didn't want to do
They did
anything.
absolutely nothing to help you. Wow. I mean, I remember saying something similar in the original show when you were here to that comment. You know, just to remind everybody at home what Jamie's story was. I mean, it boggles my mind that you go to school every day and you're surrounded by security guards and principals and teachers, and nobody's helping somebody who's being severely bullied as you once were. But you pulled through all this negativity. You're here today. You're not one of those sad statistics that, you know, kids who take their lives when this kind of thing happens to them. You do have some amazing accomplishments. In fact, one of them is you had your story published.
I did.
In Jamie's words. Can you just remind everybody at home what your book is about here?
Of course. My book is basically a journey. It's starting, you know, right in 2nd grade, and it goes up until just a few months ago. So you see how things were really negative and how I turned it around into a positive. So turning lemons into lemonade. And it also talks a little bit about what happened after I left and how these kids moved on to my brother. And then it'll talk about some of the legislation I passed. But not only is it the journey, but it's also a guide. So bullied victims, school administrators, or even parents who think their child may be being bullied can all get advice from the book.
Wow. And this was actually a journal that you kept. I mean, you kept a journal of everything that was happening to you in school, negative, the kids picking on you. You turned it into a book.
I did. It all just started as a basic journal, just my way of venting. And we looked at it one day, me and my mom, and we were like, wow, this would be a really good book.
I read it in an entire weekend when I originally read it.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's, you know, it's like hard to believe sometimes.
It is.
That so many people are like basically reading about my entire life.
And it's so sad because, you know, you do have such a good family background, like I had said. I mean, I know your parents. We've done events together, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, actually. But it's just such an interesting book for everybody to read, because it does help you fight back against bullying, and it kind of puts everybody in your shoes, what you were feeling. And that's really the real tearjerker, I think, and what people can really relate to, is that it is about you, and it's all about all of your insides and how you're feeling and everything.
Yeah, and I didn't do it just so that like people would know my story as if it was like almost for attention or anything.
Right.
I wanted people to read my story and realize that I lived through everything, and you don't have to commit suicide. You can turn a negative into a positive.
Exactly.
And make something so horrible into this wonderful thing where you can help other people and, you know, grow as a person. And I wanted, you know, people who work in a school to read it and see where my district went wrong, and have the, you know, bring it to their superintendent and say, you know, this is where, you know, we have to fix. You know, look what happened to her. We can't have that happen here.
Right. And since you've left that school district and into the private school that you're in now, none of this is going on with you anymore. You're not being bullied. You're not being picked on.
No, everything's really great.
What do your new group of friends in the new school have to say about your story?
Everyone's pretty receptive, and they They're pretty proud to, know me and to be friends with me.
Well, you're kind of a local star.
Kind of. They're very, very supportive, and my school is always behind me 100%, and they're proud to have me, and, I'm proud to be there, so.
Wow.
It's great.
And you and your mom and the rest of your family, you guys actually put together the Jamie Isaacs Foundation, which we have the graphic for that, the website that you can visit if you need more information. Tell everybody at home a little bit about that wonderful organization.
Well, the foundation started just a couple years ago, and what we do is we do in-school and also camp presentations where I educate students and also faculty members on the dangers of bullying. I'll talk a little bit about my story, how I turn things around. I talk about the legislation, and then I usually open up for questions and answers, because a lot of kids, whether they're really little or older, like my age or even older, they don't really know what bullying is. So it's interesting to hear their questions, and kind of all bounce off of each other with things like that. And we also we do in-school hearings. So if you're being bullied and you need help, you'll call our hotline, or you can send us an email, and we can schedule a hearing inside the school with the principal and the superintendent, and we can have your schedule rearranged so that you can go through the day without being bullied.
Wow, amazing.
A little bit safer, and even if the school itself isn't safe for you, we can pull you out, put you in another school within the district, or even move you to a private school of your choice.
Wow, very good stuff. Amazing. I mean, did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you would be doing this and helping so many people?
Never.
Because you've really reached out to many, many people. I mean, your accomplishments has been in News 12 and Newsday and even Channel 11 News, and of course our show. So what you do is absolutely amazing, and the fact that you have your family backing you and doing all this with you. About how many people do you think, just guesstimate, do you think you've helped through this foundation?
I don't know.
Too big for thought.
It's a big number. We've probably helped close to 100 families.
Wow.
And I've saved about 10 to 12 people from suicide.
That's awesome.
So it's a large number. You lose track after a while.
But what you do is so amazing.
Thank
It really
you.
is. And even more amazing what you did. You assisted with passing anti-bullying laws and anti-cyberbullying laws in Suffolk County. Tell us about that.
Well, right at the end of my 8th grade year, so my first year in Knox, my private school, I went to legislator John Cooper from Suffolk County, and I told him about my story, and he had this idea for cyberbullying law. So my dad and I helped him write and pass the Suffolk County cyberbullying law, and that makes cyberbullying illegal in Suffolk County. And once it's looked at by the police and to see how extreme it is, someone can receive a $1,000 fine, 1 year imprisonment, or 2 years probation. I'm also working with State Senator Jeff Klein to help pass the criminal portion of the New York State cyberbullying law.
Awesome.
And what that's going to do is, if you're being bullied, and cyberbullied rather, and once again, if it's looked at by the police, and depending on how extreme it is, the bully can be held with third-degree stalking charges.
Wow.
But
good stuff.
if the victim takes the tragic turn and commits suicide, the bully not only gets charged with third-degree stalking, but second-degree manslaughter and up to 15 years in prison. And then the final law just passed, and it goes into effect next July 1st, and it piggybacks the Dignity for All Students Act. And I helped Governor Cuomo write and pass it. And basically, it requires schools to report all bullying incidences and suspensions to the state, and they have to have a person, I believe, in each school to keep track of all the instances and report them all.
Amazing. Good for you, Jamie. Such an amazing
you.
accomplishment. I bet you never thought you'd be doing this kind of work
Never.
in your wildest dreams. I mean, just out of curiosity, what is it you wanted to do or want to do with your life when you get older?
Well, I want to be able to continue with the foundation stuff, and everyone's like, oh, run for county exec, be a legislator. I've been asked now to do it.
You could be the first woman president someday.
I don't really want to. I don't want to be involved that deeply in politics. I still want to be able to pass laws, that have to do with this topic. But I want to go to college for therapeutic horsemanship and equine business management, and that's actually therapeutic horsemanship is where you use horses to improve the motor skills of mentally and physically challenged kids.
Oh,
So I want to be able to have my own ranch for that, as well as like regular lessons,
Awesome.
and incorporate the foundation through it, because through my experience, horses always helped me. They were another form of therapy. And I want to be able to teach bullied victims how to accept love and then how to like give it back, and also have bullies become more worldly and learn how to give out love, because that's the exact opposite of what they're actually doing. And you can get that with taking care of a horse.
Wow. Well, what you're doing is absolutely amazing, Jamie. You and your
Thank you.
family doing everything that you're doing to help. I do want to talk a little bit about your current accomplishments, because this has been a very busy summer for you. You've actually put together a bunch of programs for kids that are being bullied, and also there's 2 specific sisters that you've been working very closely with. What can you
Yes.
tell us about their story?
Well, it's confidentiality. I can't exactly go into a lot of
Okay.
detail. But one of them's having a little bit of an issue in school, and they're both having, you know, kind of like a sibling kind of thing that they need help working out. And I've helped them work that out, and how to manage their anger, how
So
to
these are like support groups that you've set up.
yeah, there are 2 of the girls that we help in the support groups, and a lot of it is like how to channel your anger, because when you're being bullied and you're fighting, even like with your family, you have a lot of anger that builds up,
Yeah.
and especially when you're
holding
young,
it in.
yeah, you don't really know how to let it out. So that's like what I've been working with them. I've also been taking them to the horse rescue that I volunteer at, so that they can learn how to, you know, work together, like teamwork, because that's also where they were like struggling a little bit.
Right. Oh, well, that's so amazing what you're doing. And you've
Thank
also
you.
set up, I always say this wrong, jiu-jitsu classes?
Jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Jiu-jitsu. Little help from my friends. Thank you.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. I was taking the class, so was my brother and sister, and it's not, the whole point was not to teach kids how to hit someone if they're bullying you. It's how to defend yourself in a way where if someone goes to push you or punch you, you know how to block it, and how to get the person away from you in a way that'll say, do you really want to go forward with this, because I do know how to defend myself, without actually throwing another punch. And it was really cool. Like, we all learned, like, usually how bullies intimidate their victims. So it was really cool, and we learned how to like do these forward rolls.
It
and
sounds like
stuff.
that.
It's
Well,
so
maybe if we
cool.
have time, you'll show us a couple of moves here.
I'm afraid I might hurt somebody, but no, it was
Well,
fun.
another amazing thing that you're doing, which I find so interesting, and I got to be a part of several weeks ago, which I was very thankful for, is you started your campaign going into prisons and talking to young people between the ages of 16 and 18 who are there for bullying people. And that actually falls into where, Kevin, this is where you come in. You are the co-founder of this program called the Young Leaders Program.
Yes.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, the program, I started first with my son who played sports and his friends. And then my assistant coaches, Ron Wilson and Kevin Zaharias, we sat down and said that we have to put something together so that way kids from different nationalities, different cultures can come together and network with each other, like adults network.
Right.
And that's what we did.
And this is
we
for
started that way.
just young people between the ages of 16 to 18 years old?
16 to 18. I do have older adults that we help with their housing, with finding jobs, and with their everyday struggles. We step in and we help them out too.
And what made you want to get in, start a program like this or help co-found it and be a part of it?
Because I grew up in an area where it was multicultural area, but I played on the sports teams, and I always went to the other side of the tracks and stayed a weekend at my friend's house that played sports, that I played sports with their family. And I wanted other kids to experience that, the traveling, and just the experience of seeing someone else's culture. And that's what we're doing, and it's been very successful.
I think it's a great program, and like I said, I was very fortunate to be a part of it several weeks ago. We all attended the Rikers Island, and when I told people I was going to Rikers Island, they're like, wow, really? But honestly, it was really a great program, and I'm going to share with you my experiences with it. It was a room full of 16 to 18-year-old young men, and I believe the majority of them were there for bullying and similar miscellaneous type things, but nobody was a murderer or nothing like that. But what I saw looking around the room, like, they were really interested in what everyone had to say. And Jamie, you actually spoke there. You gave your speech on what it was like being bullied, and just looking around the room, like even though a lot of them weren't making the eye contact, you could tell they were taking it in, what everybody had to say.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that you reached a lot of those kids that were sitting in there. Tell us about the speech that you gave, actually. I mean, I was there, but inform everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much my basic speech where I talk about what happened to me. And basically, what I try to do with them is target how it's important to think about your actions and how it doesn't just affect one person, it affects everyone around that person and around you.
Mm-hmm.
And also how you can turn a negative situation into a positive, turning the lemons into lemonade, no matter how late in life it may be. Once they get out, they need to learn how to get back on a good path and how to change their life for the better. And that's what I tried to do, and I tried to hit home with that, and I know that Kevin did that too, talking about his Young Leaders program, and they all seem really interested in getting involved.
Right, and you're actually, Kevin, I should probably direct this towards you. Jamie's actually your first female spokesperson that you've asked to join the Young Leaders program.
And it was great. Like you said, the young men that were there were very accepting to her, because it's something that they never see. A lot of those young men are confined to their household, which they never see, or hear stories like hers. So they go out and they do these crimes, or they go out and go after people, not knowing the other side of it. Like what the effect it is.
Yeah, what the victim has.
What the
to
victim
go
has
through.
to say, and
It's
good that they hear that. And I think it worked. I think hopefully
I believe
she left a book.
That was the first one that I had gone to, and I thought it was a great program.
Yeah.
Like I said, I looked around, and they were just taking it all in. So
Right.
no doubt you've reached a lot of them. But tell us, if you can, some of the backstories of some of the other young men that are part of this program, because there's several young men that go with you to
Right.
these prisons and give their speeches. Like,
Right.
what are some things that have happened to them that they volunteer to do this now?
Well, a lot of the young people that I have involved, we do a lot of community service work, and not just with kids in our neighborhood, with kids throughout Suffolk County. So that way, like I said, bring all the kids together, they network, and it's been great. Some of the kids that normally wouldn't be friends are now friends, or wouldn't talk to each other.
Wow.
I look on Facebook sometimes, and they having conversations with each other. Some of them going to college together, so it's something that's bringing everyone together, because
and doing a positive thing.
doing a
while
positive
doing
because
it.
this doesn't start, just with Jamie or myself. It has to be something that the community has to come together, and the kids in the community has to come together and help out and accept this, and but everybody plays their part, and it seems to be working.
Okay, good. I definitely think it's a great program. For anybody out there that might be watching that had like a similar past and would maybe like to join your program, how can they get in touch with you?
They can call me. My number is 516-322-2286. We're also on Facebook, and some of the kids are taking charge of that, so they're going to add different things, and it's Young Leaders. And we're always looking for different people to get involved, different schools. We have an event that we do every year. We have a fair. We have rides. This year we're going to add some roller skating involved in it, and it's free to everyone in the community.
Wow.
And the kids come back, and the kids volunteer and help out with it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
How long has this program been around?
Well, public for, I'd say, 2.5 years, but we've been
So
doing
it's
it,
pretty recent.
for, like 8 years we've been doing it, and then we decided to expand it so other kids can experience it.
So do you go just into the local prisons or correctional facilities?
Well, we, that started with Deputy Jackson. He called me up, and he came to one of the events and spoke, and he said, listen, it'd be great if you guys bring this into the jails, because a lot of the kids in jail are either aged out of foster care, or they have no one there, to really support them and push them.
Right.
So can you bring this program into the jails? And I looked into it first, and it's like there's nothing set up for these kids when they get released from jail. So now these kids are being released to your communities, because some people look at it as, oh, it's not our problem. But it is your problem, because they have to be released one day, and if they release and they go back to doing the things that they were doing before, then it becomes more of a problem in our community. So it's better to try to solve these problems by helping them out, by teaching them a trade, by helping them, they have to go back to school helping them get into school. You know, just having a family for them.
And you kind of provide that too, because a little birdie had whispered in my ear, you actually have a little get-together at your house on Sundays for a lot of these kids.
Yeah, we have a dinner, and that started because I started cooking, and one of the kids came by from my son, and he saw me cooking, and he tried it. He said it was really good. So I told him to come by, and you know, thinking he was come by himself, but he brought 5 or 6 kids with him, and then I started talking about it, and I told the kids to come over. So myself and Kevin Harris and Ron Wilson, we put our money together, and we started making dinner every 2 weeks for the kids, and they come over. But we started doing was started filming it and talking to the kids and asking the kids, you know, instead of as adults we're making decisions for them, we ask them, what do you guys need in this community to make it a better community?
So you're kind of providing a home for them that maybe they didn't have prior to.
Right.
You know, and you're teaching them proper etiquette. You're basically helping them raise themselves, but doing the right thing at the same time. Good for you. And the program, the Young Leaders Program, you do a lot of fundraisers, a lot of events. I know a couple of things where you did a back-to-school fun day and Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, the Dancing with
Tell
the
us
Stars.
about that. That sounds fun. Because I'm a fan of the show.
Yeah, the Dancing with the high school star was great. We took the top athletes from different high schools and partnered them up with professional dancers. There's a dance group called Posh, and we partnered them up, and they practiced for 2 months, and then we had a dance-off at Women High School, and the kids had a ball, you know, and we're going to do it every year. We're going to do it again, and make it open for everyone to come in and support it. And Dave & Buster's actually sponsored it, so it was great. Yeah, it was great.
Good, a lot of
It
fun.
was great. Yeah.
Now let me just ask you, what do you think about Jamie's story and all of her accomplishments that have come of it?
You know what? I think it's great, and how I actually met Jamie was, you know, one of the young men that's part of our program, Evan Zachow. He was a lacrosse player at Whitman, and they had a problem with their rivalry high school, Harborfields. So they had to bring someone in to talk to the kids. So they called me up, but they also went online, and they found Jamie online. So he said, listen, you have to look at this young lady. So I went online, and I saw her speak. I'm like, wow. You know, she's 16, but she sounds like, you know. And even sitting here today and listening to her speak you know, it's amazing how mature she is, and the things that she's been through. She's still out trying to help other people, you know, and that's what we need in our community, in our world.
We need more Jamies and more of you to put together these programs too for the young men. And like I said, Jamie's actually your first young lady that's part of the program now, going into the jails and speaking. What was that like for you? I mean, that's something you've probably never done before.
Never, but
Were you nervous?
No, not really.
Not even being in the jail?
No, I don't get nervous for that kind of for anything, any kind of presentation.
I don't either, really. I find it exciting.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty exciting too. Like at first, my mom's like, "Oh, you know, you were asked to speak at Rikers Island Prison. Do you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Prison? I don't know." And she's like, "Okay, well, you know, we'll think about it for a little while. You know, once you go in, you're gonna be a different person when you come out." Not really. I went in, came back out, everything was fine. And I wasn't afraid. I didn't think it was that scary. And to be completely honest, I would go and sit with them any day of the week. Doesn't even matter, handcuffed or not, I don't care.
Well, like I said, I really think that you guys really reached them, not only with your story, but the other stories that were there, because, I mean, where I was sitting, I was just looking around the room, and whether they were looking up at you or not, they were just definitely taking it in and listening to what you had to say.
I mean, they were like the best crowd I've ever had. You know, I would much rather go talk to them than like go do a regular presentation. Like, it was really amazing. You know, usually you'd think that maybe they'd be like fidgeting in their seats and like not wanting to listen, but they were really, really great.
Yeah, you know what? And it also, not just for them, for us, and also, you know, I brought another young man with us as part of our program that goes through, you know, his everyday problems, and it was a good experience for him. Because
but he wasn't a bully or
no. But he, you know, he does he has his, you know, the drinking and you know, just the young things that kids do, and but knowing that if he continues doing that, that can be somewhere where he'll end up, and he realized that he doesn't want to be there, and it was great. You know?
It really was a great experience. Kevin, I'm going to ask you one more time if you want to put your number out there again, if anybody wants to get in touch with you for more information or even to join your group.
Yes, my number is 516-322-2286, and we're on Facebook as Young Leaders.
And well, Jamie, once again, always a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being back here today and sharing this with us. And Kevin, thank you to you
Thank
as well
you.
for coming down here today. If you'd like more information, how to get in touch with Jamie, you can visit her website at thejamieisaacsfoundation.org. You could also log on to our website. It is in our Enroll credits. And as always, I thank you so much at home for watching. Enjoy the school year. Be safe. And if you see something, say something. Tell a teacher, security guard, or principal. You too can save a life in schools. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.